Hello, everyone. Let me know if you can hear me. As usual, I'm about 10 minutes early. We'll probably have a few more people joining. I know Rafi will probably be making it, and I've invited a few other people. We'll have to see if they show up. Yeah, let me know if you can hear me. Sound is good. Echo's here. BP says hello, Mario. Hasn't been here for a while. And Durarama played golf. That's good. I unfortunately I can't play for another couple of weeks, or maybe even 3 weeks. I went to see the doctor on Friday. She said it's going well, the eye, and I said, "Can I play golf?" And she said, "Oh, don't push it. You have to wait a little bit." Graham Hobbs, nice to see you here on the green today. No, as I said, I can't play until probably beginning of October. Which is a shame. The weather's been pretty good. Jillian B. from Perthshire. Gold Lobo, salute and cheers to all stackers. Jim Tillapaw says, yes, I love Rafi. Sound is good. All right. Wayne Shinton from Dudley. Charlie Cool from California. Jam Silver from Toronto. Sebastian Hopkins says he's sharing this one. Good. Nasser Sia from Birmingham. Rudy is in the other room. Because for him to stay an hour in a closed room is a little too much. So he's with my wife. He's doing well. R. Elkas, nice to see you. Olivier Leroy in Paris, warm, 23 degrees. Yesterday was very warm. I took Rudy to the park, and he actually got a little tired. I did a video from the park, and he kind of, he wouldn't move. He's funny. Have you ever had Mark Faber on your live stream? No, but I have interviewed him a couple of times. Yeah, I've interviewed him a couple of times. I haven't had him on the live stream. Belly Dance Rabbit, happy Rosh Hashanah. Yeah, that's the new year. It's not really the Jewish New Year, but it's the new year of the old calendar. I think it was from Friday till today, I think. John Cook from Colorado. Yogi says we want Monaco 64. Yeah, so the title of the live stream is about this Shanghai premium. Some people think it's maybe a nothing burger. I think it could be significant. Someone said in the comments earlier that don't hold your breath. It's a nothing burger. It could be, but it could also be significant because Bill Murphy, who I invited, I'm not sure if he'll come, from GATA, always said that the unraveling of this paper manipulation of the gold and silver would be from outside, from other countries wanting physical. It would never come from within, from the Comex or the LBMA, because those markets are controlled by the regulators and the bankers. So this is very interesting. Such situation in the UK. Well, it's I think everywhere around the world there's so many distractions, they're bombarding us so much psychologically. And here in the UK they're talking a lot about what's his name, Russell Brand. That's the big news. So they must be wanting to distract us from something if they're focusing on that. But they're still pushing this energy bill. I'm not sure what's going to go through. Supposedly they can fine you, will be able to fine you eventually if you don't maintain your house in a certain fashion, or put you in jail. So there's a lot going on. Graham from Lancashire. Yeah, Sarah Bounty, it is a significant arbitrage. That's right. Alain Roy from Montreal. Andrew Watson from Basingstoke. Yeah, Comex doesn't have inventory. Comex is like I've always said that, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Comex, because I used to be a futures and options broker for over 20 years, as most of you know. I did trade some gold futures, but most of the futures I traded were government bond futures. But once I bought my first gold coins in 2002, I started following the gold market, the futures market. And I could sense right away that there's something wrong with it, that it moved always at the same time. It was very weird, almost like it was fixed. Matt Bittner, some people think oil prices are manipulated, similar to gold, and silver has something to do with Russian Saudi production cuts. Yeah, maybe. I mean, you could argue also that the Biden administration, the last 18 months, they got rid of a lot of the reserves. That helped bring oil down. And now they have very little strategic reserves. And I also saw a chart that consumption, oil consumption in the US is going up. So there's that too. Andrew Bevan says he reported and blocked Monaco at Monaco 1964. Is that on Twitter? Yeah, there's a lot of impersonators. My eye's doing well, Chris. Thank you. As you can see, I have to keep still putting. I've only got like 2 eye drops to put on, or 3, which is less than before, but it's a lot better. The pressure's gone down, which is good. And that's what it's all about. The glaucoma was you get pressure in the eye that's higher than 20. That's really bad. It was just my right eye. Yeah, Matt Bittner, they're going to have a tough time refilling that because everyone knows they need to refill. It's a little bit like when Gordon Brown pre-announced that he was going to sell Britain's reserves, gold reserves. Everyone did a front running exercise. They sold before Gordon Brown could sell it. And I think that was done on purpose to help the bullion banks. There's only one way. Thank you for your super chat. I was thinking about you and see you live. Wall Street silver at 1 million. What do you mean at 1 million? You mean the Twitter? Yeah, I don't really follow Wall Street silver anymore anyway, but CB from Poland. Poland's been buying a lot of gold. The Polish Central Narodny Polska Bank, isn't it? They've got Poland's got more gold now than the UK in terms of reserves. Yeah. Charles Neftelberg, our money was destroyed. Yeah, we haven't really had money. The banks haven't had money in them for many, many decades. I think you need to go back to really the 30s in the US and in Europe prior to 1914. It's become all debt-based. It's not real money. Steve Woitas from Toronto. Rafael Molina says oi. Oi. Yeah, oi is like the English use that term, like especially in London, oi. But in Portuguese as well, in Brazil, oi means hi. Britannia 2024 Britannia is out tomorrow. Interesting. Would it ever be profitable for precious metals holders to move to Argentina? Well, Argentina is still, if you have precious metals or even dollars at the moment, the standard of living is very low. You could survive quite well there. Yeah, we're going to talk about that Argentina because something, quite interesting is happening there. Your show on Sunday night is the best part of the weekend, Hannah says. Oh, thank you, Hannah. That's nice to say that. BP, silver has touched the top of the bottom range of the chart twice for each time. Third time's a charm. Which direction does it go from purely techno point of view? Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, I think there's a lot of support on the downside and resistance. It's like I think it's like a coiling spring, and eventually it's going to go either way. I tend to think it's going to go up, of course. That's the way I see it. And says, do you know what happened to 2-year gilt yields in 03, 04? The price of the charts look crazy. I'm not sure. I haven't, yeah, I don't remember. I'd have to look at it. I mean, I was in the markets back then, but yeah. I think rates were going down back in those days, so price was probably going up. Nanotuber, why everyone obsessed with gold and silver is much more upside and less downside. Well, because not obsessed, it's just that with what they've done, if you understand what gold and silver are, that they're money, and that the current system, monetary system that we have is debt-based, that they've created so much debt, and it's not sustainable. So one day when all this debt, well, it could go either way. It could hyperinflate or it could collapse. You will want to have gold and silver. But yeah, gold and silver, you know, if you look back to the year 2000, gold and silver have averaged on in the major currencies, they've gone up by about 9 to 10% every year from the year 2000, which is very good. But they make it, they don't want to see that happen every year, 9, 10% every year in a straight line, because then people would all jump onto gold and silver. And that's why they manipulate the market with the futures market, which we're going to come to in a minute. So yeah, it looks like Rafi hasn't arrived and the other guys haven't arrived. So it doesn't matter anyway. We can keep going. There's only one way. Thank you again for your super chat. Oh, Rafi's just arriving. Here we go. I was the one who posted your videos on Wall Street Silver on Reddit at 35,000. Now you disown them with 1 million followers. You mad? Hi, Rafi.
Hi, Mario. How's your eye?
Oh, much better. Yeah, much better. No, I'm not disowning Wall Street Silver, but yeah, and I don't go on Reddit, but you know, I don't want to get into that argument. Someone's asked about Wall Street Silver. I don't follow them anymore, and I think Jim Lewis, whatever his name is, he's not around anymore. So, you know, that's all I have to say about that. But you know, I know you've been on with Ivan.
Yeah, I really have nothing to say about it. Like,
yeah, I don't either. I mean, I think Ivan is an all right guy, but what I've heard about the other guy, I don't like it. So I just try to keep my head down and keep doing what I do. I mean, I've been around a lot longer than Wall Street Silver. They came about like in 2021, and I've been doing my videos since 2016 or late 2015. Steve White says, thank you for your super chat. He says, what is your current outlook on gold and silver miners? Well, you know, they've been frustrating, of course, and they've underperformed the bullion. I think you just need to be patient and hold on to it and not leverage so much. And it's all personal. I prefer physical, but I do have some mining investments. And yeah, what about you, Rafi? What do you think?
Look, I think they're going to do, excuse me, I think they're going to do great as the monetary system implodes. But there's always a risk that they could be nationalized. They could, you know, we're seeing now the Biden administration is like contemplating an 8% royalty on them or something. They're going to be under attack. It's true.
Yeah.
But as long as you understand that they're not really as good of a protection against the end game as physical gold is, which is money itself. You can play with miners. I have, you know, a large percentage of mining stocks because I want to have dividends when there's no dollar anymore. But I can't guarantee that they'll make it through any tyranny that comes their way. So as long as you have your physical, you can play with miners too.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing, I mean, I did a review of a book that someone sent me, the Great Taking, I think it's called. And it was written by a guy who's quite knowledgeable, was in the hedge fund world, was even interviewed by George Soros. And he thinks that eventually the powers that be, when everything implodes and the derivatives bubble bursts, they will take everyone's investments as collateral. So, I mean, reading that makes you concerned. Even if you have stocks that are doing well, what if your broker goes bust? So you need to think about everything, but you need to assess the risk yourself. And I think that's what's important. Rafi, I forgot to say Happy New Year.
Thank you. 5784. It's going to be interesting.
5784. Could you explain to the viewers, because some people think it's the Jewish New Year, but it's not really, right?
Yeah, it's not really the Jewish New Year. The Torah doesn't call it the Jewish New Year. It calls it the day of Trua, which is really the day of brokenness. And it's the same word for the root word of evil, which means unstable or wobbly.
Yeah.
So it's really the birthday of the world by biblical calculations. And we're commanded to pray for the world on that day.
Yeah.
Our New Year is Passover. That's when we became a people. But we call this the New Year of the world because the world preceded us.
Yeah. And I guess prior to the current calendar we have in the West, everyone probably followed this calendar, didn't they? I don't know about the Romans, what they
I'm not
followed.
sure. I don't think they did.
Yeah.
We had a big argument as to what the calendar was. Different sects of Jews argued about it in the Roman period, and the other sect is not here anymore. And the Pharisees kind of won out on that one.
Yeah. Chris Conman, thank you for your super chat. At what point will the miners become overvalued and you should take profits? Well, I don't think they are right now. They're definitely not right now. When do you think they'll be overvalued? I mean, I guess you'll have to compare them to other assets.
You mean when are mining stocks going to be overvalued?
Yeah, they're way undervalued right now, I would say.
I mean, I would look at the ratio of gold to the gold stocks, so the Huey index or GDX or whatever index you want to use. And when it gets to something below the all-time lows, meaning in the ratio of gold to miners, that would be, overvaluing. What is the low, like 5-1, 4-1 or something like that in 2002, 3? I don't remember, but we're nowhere near that now. So just track that ratio and it'll give you a good idea.
Yeah, and I think, that's a good question, because I remember in 2008, I had a lot of mining stocks and they did really well for my ISA, and I didn't get out in time. I was okay, but I could have made a lot more. So don't be greedy. If you've done really well, just get out maybe a big chunk of it, I would say. Don't get married to the position. But right now, I think they're still undervalued, in my opinion. And Rafi, the title of the live stream is Shanghai Gold and Silver Premiums Skyrocket. I'm sure you've seen what's going on there. What's your opinion on it?
I've been following it. Well, I haven't really looked into this until recently. But I see people tweeting about it or posting about it or Xing about it, whatever the term is now. So I don't really know why premiums would suddenly jack up in Shanghai over New York or over the international price, whatever it is. But for whatever reason, it's at all-time record highs for gold. And what I'm writing about, I'm going to publish this either tonight or tomorrow on the Endgame Investor, is that this is different from what happened in 2020 when there was an all-time discount. And when we saw a discount in the gold price in Shanghai over New York or under New York, then what happened was gold flooded into New York from all over the world, mostly Switzerland, because that's where the supply is. But what was happening there was that the price was that the price in New York was it was going up. It was going up, but not as fast as the price. Sorry, the price in China was going up, but not as fast as the price in New York. So the premium was in New York. And now what's happening is that the price is going down in New York and up in China. I mean, they're going in opposite directions now. This is something different. I don't know what is causing it. Some kind of big financial institution somewhere in the East. I really don't know.
And I remember also 2020, there was a big discrepancy between the cash price, LBMA price, and the futures price as well. There is very volatile. And I think the Comex had to accept a different kind of gold that was not part of its contract from London. They had to accept. The
good delivery bars, right?
Yeah, that's right. A question for Rafi here from BP. You say that the gold silver ratio will eventually go to 15-1. Why do you think it will stay there, considering that silver has been so suppressed? Do you think it won't overshoot?
It might overshoot, but like by that time, I'm not going to care. No one's going to care. Like if I get out of my silver positions and I buy, let's say, real estate or businesses or farmland or whatever I'm going to buy, I don't know. And I sell it, let's say 20-1, 25-1, 15-1, or in different tranches around that area. And then I have some left and it goes to 10-1. So I'll sell the rest of it. Like I don't really care exactly what it's going to go to. I just know it's going to go to around the historical monetary ratio until such a time where a new gold derivative can be established that will make silver less useful at that point. And that'll take some time. So maybe a year, maybe a little more, something like that.
Rafi, do you think this premium could have something to do with the fact that London, LBMA, even Comex, there's so much paper in that market, and that the Shanghai markets are more based on physical, and that could be building the discrepancy? Or you think
I don't think so, because that's been the case for a very long time, and then all of a sudden the premiums are rocketing up like in the last few weeks. So it's not nothing changed in the paper dominance on the Comex versus the physical dominance in Shanghai. Something else is happening. I don't know what it is. It looks like it could be something like a big financial institution is in trouble, or something, or a government is moving. I don't know.
Or maybe the Chinese are really, even the public are really going heavily into physical. I mean, I've heard that silver sales have, the biggest online shop in China, they've run out of silver. There's a huge industrial demand, but who knows? What I wanted to do here, and then we can look at other things, because I saw someone asking how they manipulate the paper price through the futures. So what I brought up here is the CME, the Comex future, gold futures. Comex used to be part of NYMEX. It still is, but now it's owned by the CME as well. So we can see that one futures contract, you control 100 troy ounces of gold. So right now, let's say you're controlling just under $200,000. And the reason why they can move the market so much is because of this. If you look at the margins for gold futures, you only need like $7,800 to control,
$200,000 of gold.
Yeah, so it's like 3.9%. So that and that's why the bankers, especially the bullion banks, they can throw around a lot of size, and and unfortunately there are, well, I mean, I used to trade a little bit of the gold futures, and I did quite well back when I was in the city, but I don't anymore. And that's one of the reasons why they're able to keep this game going, because people in the West, they're much more into trading and making fiat profits than actually buying the physical gold. So maybe you could tell the viewers, because you try to take delivery of silver with some other people, and it was a nightmare, wasn't it? Because I remember, Rafi, I used to trade futures. I was telling before you came on that I was a futures and options broker for like 20 years, but mostly government bonds. But at one point, I had a colleague who had clients who trade a lot of gold. And I told the guy, it was quite a wealthy Norwegian guy. And I said, if you really wanted to move the silver market, I would, take delivery. And I asked the boss of our desk, how would it be to take delivery? And he said, forget about it. We never do delivery. So maybe, you could tell the viewers about your experience.
Yeah, well, very briefly, it was a circus. I don't even remember every detail now. I made a video about it on my YouTube channel. You can just search Rafi Farber Comex and you'll find it somewhere. I have the recordings and all the phone conversations I made with all the customer service people, and really, like, they were actually trying to help me, but like every time I got the contract delivered, I got the warrant, meaning I changed my position from a theoretical 5,000 ounces of silver. I didn't do gold, I did silver. A theoretical 5,000 ounces to actual 5 bars that were represented by my warrant. That's as far as I got. I wasn't able to load it out and get the actual bars. I'm with Interactive Brokers. They didn't allow me to do that. Even though they said theoretically I could, they didn't. They just said, no, we're going to help you anymore. So the system just like didn't recognize that I was standing for delivery, and they kept canceling the order, and I kept saying I wanted it, and I had to call, and then it was just a circus. But what I'm thinking, the more important thing is that the system is designed to prevent retail traders from taking delivery. But I think that let's say if JP Morgan gets a big delivery call from, let's say, Bank of America or something, or HSBC or one of the big bullion banks, they'll fulfill it immediately because they're on the same team. And they do these like big orders between the big banks, and they shuffle the warrants around to make it look like deliveries. And I'm starting to believe what Craig Hemke says about this. This is all a paper shuffling game. And, when an outside party tries to take delivery and it doesn't work, people are going to get angry. And I think that's what happened to the Hunt brothers.
Oh, yeah. What people don't realize about the Hunt brothers, and I've read up on it quite a bit, is that, they say, they try to corner the silver market in 1980, but they forget that in the early 70s, the Hunt family, they had an oil interest in Kuwait, I think. They're a very wealthy family, and when Nixon closed the gold window, they said, well, we need to start buying silver physical. They started buying physical because they knew the inflation was coming. They couldn't buy gold because it was not legal for Americans, so you had to wait till 1975. So they actually started buying silver futures on Comex, or they're taking delivery. They used to take delivery in Switzerland, and they kept adding on and on and on during the 70s. And then in the late, I think 79 to 1980, maybe they overdid it. They became too greedy. But the bankers, the Fed, the New York Fed, the Treasury, they changed the rules on them and basically bankrupted them. And I think ever since then, the CFTC and all the regulators, they're not there to protect. They're there to protect, like you said, the big banks. It's like a big club now. And for them, they can take delivery, but not you and I.
Yeah. Theoretically, it's possible. I've heard of people who have done it. But if too many people try to do it at once, I think they'll put a stop to it.
John Cook is asking, Rafi, how can silver go down when it is only being used in everything, and it could be the first element to be depleted on the elemental chart? Do you want to give your opinion on that?
I don't think it'll be depleted. I hear these arguments all the time, all the way back from Thomas Malthus, arguing that population can't grow because food grows arithmetically and population grows geometrically. What he didn't realize is as population grows, so does capital. And then we can extract more from the planet. So theoretically, even Murray Rothbard acknowledges this. It's theoretically possible that we could run out of stuff. But before we run out of stuff, I think, unfortunately, there's going to be a calamity, and then the population will shrink again like it did in the Dark Ages. And hopefully us people, will survive through it. Not all of us will. And with God's help, we can. And with some smarts, too. We have to do what we need to do, and we need to pray. because none of us know what's going to happen. We just know it's going to be rough.
I followed this guy on Twitter. He's Chinese, calls himself at Oriental Ghost, Bao Xiaojun. And
All right.
one thing that he says is interesting. Right now, at current prices, all the silver that's above ground is not economical to recycle it, but at a much higher price it will be. And I think because he's written about the fact that underground resources of silver are going to run out at current prices in the next 2-3 years, at least in the big mining countries like Mexico and China. But the only thing that can solve that, like you said, is higher prices. And I think, I don't think silver will run out, but the supply could run out, not because there isn't silver, but because the price just doesn't make it economical to extract it.
Yeah.
Andrew Ramos says, I've heard because 80% of the homeowner claims in the US are from Florida, you have a law that homeowners can easily get sued. Don't know what he's talking about there. Oh yeah, Rafi, what about the guy in Argentina? I know you heard, I made a video about him back in August because I saw that he won that primary, and I had read something about him like 6 months or so ago, and I was surprised that he won the primaries, and he seems to be getting a lot more popular. And one thing that I hear and people comment about, because I made another video yesterday about him, is they say, oh, how can he be a free market guy if he wants to dollarize? And I think that's a mistake to think that. It's the mainstream that's saying he wants to dollarize, but from what I hear, he wants to allow people to use whatever money they want, right?
Yeah, well, he said this in a response to I think like 117 or 170 economists said that, if he dollarizes the economy and there's going to be hyperinflation in the peso. Yeah, well, there already is. So, but so he said dollarization is not what I want. He wants to do what Ron Paul wanted. It was competing currencies.
That's right.
So I don't know if this is in his plan. I don't know Spanish, so I can't wade through all of his plans or anything. But what I put out a video on him, and I said, look, competing currencies is good. If people want to use dollars, let them use dollars. I don't have a problem with dollarization. I have a problem with dollarization at the expense of also using gold and silver. Right. If he allows not just currency competition, but currency versus money on an equal playing field, then gold and silver will win. And people ask me, they say, oh, Gresham's law, right? Well, would you rather pay taxes, or would you rather use gold, or would you rather use dollars? You'd rather use the depreciating currency. Well, yeah, that's true. But if it's legal tender, then Gresham's law is reversed, right? Then Gresham's law only goes until the currency is dead, and then all the gold and silver comes forcing out of all the hordes because there's nothing else to use. So if he allows taxes to be paid in gold and silver, then he can allow money to compete with currency, and then Argentina can really be Argentina, which literally means the land of silver. Let him do it.
Yeah. I listened to one of his videos because I understand Spanish. And when they asked him about money, it was almost like he was reading Rothbard, that what has government done to our money. So I totally agree. He wants to abolish legal tender laws, abolish the central bank. And did you know that in the US, prior to the Civil War, people, all kinds of money used to circulate in the US. You used to get European gold and silver coins. You could use anything to pay. There were no legal tender laws. It was only with the Civil War that it came about. So I brought this up here because the election is on the 22nd of October. And I just want to reiterate that, and Rafi as well, I think you're the same view, that I don't think people should depend on a leader to look after themselves and be self-sufficient. But I think this is quite significant if he were to win, because he's the kind of guy that thinks like Ron Paul, in my opinion. But as you can see, back in end of August, he his polling was quite good. It's kind of dropped a little bit, but he's still ahead. So I think we've got about a month to go. So and those are the other guys there. And I think they say here that to avoid a runoff, a candidate must either win more than 45% of the vote, or at least 40% of the vote, and 10% more of the vote than the second place candidate. So they might even have a second vote on November 19th. So there you go.
Well, so I wanted to say this to people in our camp, right? Yeah, I'm not like, first of all, the criticism that I'm putting too much faith in politics. I'm not like, people say that Ron Paul failed, and in a way he did, but really he succeeded because he really galvanized the entire libertarian community to focus on money and to understand things. And we wouldn't be what we are now if not for him. So he really did succeed in that. And Milei, he might win, he might lose, or he might win and then turn around and be a bad guy. I don't know. Like, I'm not putting my faith in any politician, but it's important. It's important to be positive every now and then, to have some hope, even if it falls, because it keeps you sane and it keeps you going. That's important.
There's so much rubbish these days, that makes you worried and fearful, and we shouldn't let it. I think you said that in your video. You have to be fearful, but don't let it control you. And it's almost like a psyop everywhere you look. And so, and like you said, he could say all these things and then he becomes president and does completely the opposite. So, it's like Ronald Reagan. He, in the last 100 years, he's the third in terms of increasing the debt in percentage terms. He's number 3 after FDR and Woodrow Wilson. And people think of Ronald Reagan as, putting the size of the state down, but he didn't.
Yeah. No, Murray Rothbard said that about Ronald Reagan. He said that the worst thing for the libertarian movement, the complete disaster, was the Reagan administration. Complete disaster, because it looked like he was doing good. He was saying the right things, but he was doing the exact opposite of what needed to be done. It was really horrible. Yeah.
Someone's saying Argentina has defaulted several times this century. Yeah. And they keep going for more borrowing. It's like they're in this IMF, World Bank straitjacket. But did you see the interview with Tucker Carlson that he did?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was more designed for mainstream people, and there was nothing like earth shattering in it. He was just showing that he's a normal guy, and he's very he has a soft soul, and he talks tough sometimes, but he's really like a puppy. And so that's what he was going for, and it has almost 400 million views. I don't know what that means.
Where did you see that?
On Twitter, his interview with Tucker Carlson, it's at 389 million now.
Oh, really? Because when I look on Twitter, it just says like 200,000 or something, 300,000.
No, look on Tucker Carlson's profile directly. It's a pinned tweet, and the original video. So I think it says 390 million.
Wow, that's a lot, because the population of Argentina is like 47 million. So he's definitely got people interested. And it's interesting that he said, because he asked, you don't like socialism or communism, so would you deal with China? And he said, well, as a government, we try not to deal with them. But if Argentinians want to do business, individuals want to do business with Chinese companies, it's their business. I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, but that's a very important distinction to make, because if you're going to start, embargoing countries and cutting off trade between your people and some other country, it doesn't matter what is going on in that country. Like, I wouldn't say that never ever matters. Like, I guess there are some cases, but if it should be up as a general rule to a population or a company or whatever to trade or not to trade. And the state should, if it wants to not deal with certain governments, fine.
Yeah. Question on silver mines. Have the major silver deposits been discovered and therefore less silver to dig up, or are there major reserves in the ground that are not being dug up due to cost? Do you want to answer that first, Rafi?
Of course, we're not even close to mining everything. And I mean, the earth is huge. I'm not a geologist, but I'm pretty sure there's metals everywhere.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to dig up. It just depends on how much it costs. That's all.
Yeah, and I don't think there are that many only pure silver mining companies. A lot of the silver comes as a byproduct of base metals. So,
I
but
think most of it, it's like 60 or 70% or something like that.
did you see the other day? I think First Majestic, they've announced they're going to start their own mint.
Oh, great. I didn't see that.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter, and they're going to start selling straight from their mint to customers.
They already do that. They have this little store. I think I've bought
Yeah.
from them. They have
Yeah,
these nice coins.
but they're actually going to be minting their own coins and bars.
Okay, great. It's good news.
Matt Bittner says Zero Hedge had an interesting story about Putin stating that he strongly doubted U.S. foreign policy would meaningfully change if Trump got reelected. I think I saw that. He was saying that I think he was interviewed. I don't know if it's recent, but he said that it doesn't matter who becomes president. It just seems to be like the men in black, where the bureaucracy is always in charge. But I'm not too sure. I mean, any opinion on that, Rafi?
I mean, I don't. There's nothing good that Trump did besides not getting into wars. That was the only good thing he did. But everything else was bad. I mean, he hasn't even tried to help all the innocent people from January 6th that have lost their freedom. He hasn't even said a word about it. I mean, I'm not impressed with this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's elected, fine, but like, I'm kind of rooting for RFK. Maybe something will happen and Biden will be out, and then RFK will have some kind of independent run. And I don't know what's gonna. I don't have any expectation from Trump to do anything important.
Yeah, and I didn't really like the way he went about that crisis we had in 2020, to 2020.
Oh God, I don't even want to talk about that. That just makes me sick.
The thing is, some people say, oh, he stopped the funding to the WHO, but what he said was that he would stop it in 2021. And then he lost. So he never really stopped it. And then Biden just kept it going, the funding. So, and, and I know that prices started rising in 2021, 2022, but it was under his watch that the Fed printed all those trillions, and we got the government spending as well. But I try to stay away from the politics, even though we touched upon Millet. And I still think that you have to, look after yourself, your family, friends, and community, and not expect anything from politicians. BP says, do you think, thank you for answering my question, most appreciated. Fitz chivalry, how can a country with no royalty impose royalties? Well, they can pass a law, can't they?
Yeah. Well, you mean because it has no monarchy, so they can't have royalties? I think that's all just nomenclature. What's the difference? It's just a tax.
It's a tax. Royalty is a term. It doesn't mean, it didn't quite, that's what you call it. What do you think about the reverse repo chart? I'll let you answer that one, Rafi. I think you follow that one.
Yeah, so I'm putting this together. It's also going to be in my weekend report in the Endgame Investor. It's the reverse repos, I think, it's the last spare tank of dollars that is available. So I was looking at it, and it's down 92 billion from Friday, or from Thursday to Friday, down 92 billion, and that's like 6%. That's the biggest drawdown of reverse repos in a day that is not an end of month book balancing day. So it depends, like what is drawing this out.
Does that mean the banks are taking back the cash that they have with the Fed, or is vice versa?
Yeah, it means they're using it for something else. And you could argue, are they using it to buy T-bills instead? But like, why would they do that if the interest rate for T-bills is about the same as the interest rate for reverse repos? There's no real incentive to do that. So what I think might be happening is that there's some kind of like hole in their balance sheet from some counterparty that isn't paying their debts, and they have to plug it, and they're using their spare dollars to plug it.
Yeah, and I mean, we're going to come to the Treasury yields, the 10-year. I wanted to show you this chart, Rafi, because you've been you were in the first ones to look at M2 growth, money supply that was going negative. Of course, this was during the 2021 beer event, and then started coming down. But I've noticed that recently started going up again. So I just wanted to ask you, has the rate started bottoming out? The rate of it, because it was going negative, right? But now it's
yeah. So if you go to the address bar, instead of M2SL, type in WM2NS, then you'll see a more exact chart.
WM.
And in the address bar where the URL is.
Okay.
Just type in at the end, instead of /M2SL, WM2NS.
WM2NS.
Yeah, that should do it.
All right.
So there, and then you can click on the 1 year and you can see what's happening week to week.
Yeah, it seems
so
to be
yeah, it's leveling out, but like we're still in deflation here.
Yeah.
It's leveling out because I think the reverse repos are coming back in. But if reverse repos are coming back in and all it's doing is leveling out, that means there's extreme deflationary forces that are keeping the reverse repos from pushing it back up.
Yeah, and I just saw this before I started the live stream, because it looks like the market is not expecting the Fed to do anything on Wednesday. But now it looks like it says economists expect Fed to defy investors with more interest rate rises.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah. I mean, I thought, aside from the interesting, price action in gold, vis-a-vis Shanghai, I thought this was very important as well last week. The fact that this is the 10-year yield, a weekly chart. This is the highest close, 433, since 2007. And I mean, that could be what's maybe pushing, decreasing the reverse repo. They're having to be, like you said, there could be not just one institution, but several that are in trouble because, with yields going up like that, a lot of the banks' balance sheets are probably not looking very good.
Yeah, look, something's happening. And we'll find out after it explodes what it was.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. There's so many things that could happen. So this is that guy, the Chinese guy. Because I think Kitco wrote an article and they here about the premium in Shanghai. And they asked the guy, John Reed. I know this guy. He's a chief, well, I don't know him, but he used to be a bullion dealer for UBS London. And when I used to follow the market, when I was still working in the city, I started noticing, every day at the same time, gold used to be sold off on the official open of Comex, on the after the PM fixing. And I contacted him because I had a Bloomberg. So I messaged him to talk about manipulation. And I even spoke to him on the phone and he said, "No, what are you talking about? There is no manipulation." So he's talking about this, that he's never seen these such high premiums, but he doesn't seem to know what's really going on. But our friend there, he says, where there's a premium among markets, why is the West always looking for reasons in China instead of Comex? He's saying, maybe the Comex prices are distorted, and he could be right. So,
so he's saying instead of the premium going up in China, it's just going down on the Comex. Why would that suddenly be now? That's the question.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe because there's so many people. Maybe the Chinese, because in the last 9 months they've announced, at least officially, that they're buying gold reserves. Prior to that, they used to announce every 3 years. So maybe there's a rush, with all the BRICS things to use gold more, in terms of settling trades. Maybe, if the Saudis are gonna be paid for their oil in renminbi, they probably told the Chinese, "Oh, we don't want to keep all the renminbi. We want some gold in return." So that could be why. I'm not sure.
Look, whatever it is, I know what the end game is, and I know what gold
Yeah.
does.
Oh
And
yeah.
we'll figure out what the path was there after we get
I
to
know
the end of
after all
the
happens. Yeah.
road.
Yeah. No, I agree. So just gonna show. I think this is from King World News. So this is
Right.
that's how. Yeah.
Right. That's almost the exact chart I put on Endgame Investor. I'm gonna
Okay.
publish
Yeah.
almost that exact chart from your gold charts, or else you can see the blue is moving down, the red's moving up. It's never
Yeah.
happened before.
Yeah. And then I saw another story that I laughed about. You know, Mark Carney, who was the head of the Canadian Central Bank during the '08 crisis, and he, cut rates in Canada down to almost zero. He did QE, and then he came to the Bank of England in 2013 and kept rates at zero. He did QE in 2016 after the Brexit vote, and now he's blaming, what's her name, Liz Truss, for all the mess that we're in. I mean, and she was in power for 49 days. I mean, and
Okay.
what's concerning is that the city now is backing Labor, as Mark Carney claims Truss turned Britain into Argentina. Well, I would say it's decades of inflation and socialism, like Millet was saying. Argentina has been experimenting with socialism for 100 years, and I think we've been in the UK experimenting with it since the end of World War II, which is ironic because we're supposed to be fighting National Socialism, and then win the war, and then we build a socialist system.
Well, socialism is just theft, and every
Yeah.
so often a society wants to experiment with stealing because it's fun, but
Yeah.
then your society falls apart. It's really
Yeah.
that simple.
So why do you think the bankers are backing socialism? Because some people actually say that the bankers want socialism because it creates monopolies, and it looks like that's what they want.
Well, the main way to fund socialism is by stealing, and the best way to steal is through inflation. And the ones in charge of inflation are the banks, so they're the
Mm,
ones who want socialism. I mean,
yeah,
it's just
yeah,
follow
yeah,
the money derivatives. They're
I
created by
know.
the banks. Of course, they want socialism.
Yeah, and it's strange because when you talk to people who are supposedly free market and everything, and you say, well, then we don't need central banks, they look at you as if you're crazy, but the name central bank monopoly, and that's not a free market. So anyway, just thought that was interesting. Let's get rid of that. Gold futures. Oh, this is a cable here from this WikiLeaks from 1974, I think. Or 19,
Ah,
yeah. And it talks about the futures market just prior to when they made it legal in the US.
mhm.
And they talk about the fact that, the futures, here it says the professional London market fixers were surprised with the alacrity with which the Treasury moved, both in allowing US residents to purchase gold and announcing its own gold sale. Market operators in Europe considered that up to 10 to 15% of the market could shift to the US. They doubt that the US could control the market even if it wished to. On the other hand, US involvement will add sophistication to the futures end of the market. So you see, that's one of the things that they were advised to do by the London bullion dealers, the US Treasury, when they allowed gold to be legal again. And I think it was January 1st, 1975. They said, well, if you create a futures market, they had one already for silver. If you create a futures market for gold, you will get people to focus on speculating on gold and not owning it. And it's interesting because the gold futures contract, which is the code is GC on Comex, it traded, the first day it traded was December 31st, 1974, because the settlement would be the next day. So I find that interesting. And you show that to people and they still think you're crazy when you talk about manipulation, but it's been for a long time. And I think it was Bill Murphy who said, from GATA, that he thinks that the price discovery, the real value of gold and silver will only come about when, you know, the outside world wants physical gold. And I think that could be happening with China. I could be wrong, but like you said, the end game will be the same.
Yeah, it's the existence of the futures market that is the manipulation. There's manipulations that happen within the futures market, talking about a 7 a.m. contract dump or whatever. Those happen, those things happen, but that's not the biggest deal. The biggest deal is that the futures market even exists for gold and silver. What should regulate the amount of gold and silver being mined is that you count how many ounces of gold it costs to dig out an ounce of gold. And if it's negative, you don't do it. And if it's positive, you do it. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't need a hedge.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that's right. And I think, they just use the price to control it. What else? Someone's saying they buy silver in Switzerland with no VAT. Yeah, that's one thing about, there is VAT on silver in the UK, but I've never really worried about it because, I mean, the first time I bought silver, I bought gold the first time in 2002, some Krugerrands. And then in 2003, I started buying gold. And I think the price was like £3.20 per ounce. Now it's about 19. But at the time, there was VAT and it ended up being like £3.80. And I said, and I was a bit, I didn't like that, but looking back, it doesn't really matter, 20%. And I think people who don't buy silver because of that in the UK, they're making a mistake because eventually you will want silver.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, go ahead. When the US actually was a constitutional republic, wasn't the Treasury essentially a central bank? Rafi, do you want to?
I guess you could call it that.
Yeah.
But the Treasury, I mean, I'm not too versed on the history of the Treasury and how it functioned. But they were really at the mercy of actual money because people accepted gold and silver for payment of their debts, and then the government is at the mercy of that. That's actually one of the arguments that I had with Peter Schiff, actually, that I don't think he realized it was an argument, but he's of the opinion, because his father wrote this, that what gives the dollar its purchasing power is the fact that the Treasury demands it in payment of taxes, and that's part of it. But then again, if you take it from the other side, the Treasury demands dollars as a payment for taxes because the dollar has value. Right. Yeah. It's chicken and egg, but really it's not chicken and egg. What's the bottom line is you can still exchange it for gold. That's the answer.
Yeah. I'm reading this book here, The Price of Time, and I'm almost finished, but today I was reading about actually in the after the Civil War, and especially like 1880s to early 1900s, the US Treasury was quite active actually in manipulating interest rates, and they kept interest rates really low. And apparently that led to financialization and all the big trusts, the Rockefeller Trust, the Carnegie and all that. And it's interesting that I think 1893 or 94, JP Morgan bailed out the US Treasury because they ran out of gold.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. But then in 1910, I think 1907, with the earthquake in San Francisco, the Knickerbocker Trust collapsed in New York, and JP Morgan got tired of having to bail things out. And he said, we need the public to do it. And that's when they came up with the idea of a central bank, and eventually, it became. But the interesting thing about this book, Rafi, is that it talks about how when interest rates are really low, it leads to financialization where we're now. And it leads also, like when you don't allow companies to go bust, like they did in 2008 and even 2020, the economy has become more and more sclerotic. They don't grow. And a lot of the central banks, they write papers on it saying that, oh, productivity is not increasing, but they don't realize that they're the problem by keeping interest rates that really low.
Yeah, well, in the Soviet Union, no one was ever unemployed. Wonderful.
Yeah, that people don't realize that in free market capitalism, you need ups and downs. Or it's like, I think there was a saying that capitalism without bankruptcy is like religion without sin, something.
Well, that's not bad.
If no one ever sinned, wouldn't need religion, right?
Mhm.
Question here from Frickendell Special. Mario or Rafi, what can we do besides buy gold and silver to stop feeding the printing scheme? I would say not borrow from them as well. Live within your means, not be seduced by peer pressure or having this or that. What do you think, Rafi?
You can stay on the lower areas of the pyramid. You can use cash instead of credit cards, which makes the bank richer. And I know, and I suffer from this myself, the temptation to get miles on your credit card and then get cash back or whatever,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Use cash as much as you can. And you can barter with people, trade services for services, so you're not using any kind of medium. And that's hard to do, but it's the purest form of transaction. It's the purest form of trade. If you're a dentist and you need someone to garden, if you're doing teeth cleaning to a gardener, just do it for free and have him tend your yard or whatever it is. Do that and build local communities so that you're ready.
Yeah. Oh, there's a question from Hannah. Marion Rafi, did you hear Alistair McLeod say he thinks Putin has to put the ruble on the gold standard because the ruble is going down? I didn't hear anything about that.
Yeah, I've kind of broken away from McLeod on these issues. I don't really follow. I respect his banking knowledge and his monetary knowledge, but I'm not really in the same camp as him when he talks about what's going on in Russia and the BRICS, and I just don't see it that way. But I don't know. I don't care. Like, if he's right, he's right. But I don't see it.
I think the reason why the BRICS countries are buying a lot of gold is not that they want to create a central bank digital currency backed by gold, but is that if you think about the dollar, right? If they abandon the dollar, their currencies are already they're also fiat currencies. So how are other countries going to trust their currency? Well, they have to have some gold reserves. That's why I think they buy gold. I mean, whether Putin is going to go on a gold standard, I can't say, but there you go.
No, none of these people are trying to save us. They're not looking out for us.
No,
they're all looking out for themselves.
Yeah, and after the state as well, the government. The other thing about cash, like you're talking about cash, I saw that for the first time in 10 years, the amount of cash used in the UK has gone up.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but the only downside is that debit cards and contactless cards went up even more. But it looks like people are using a bit more cash, which is interesting. But unfortunately, I think in the next 20 years is going to get, well, unless something happens. And my hope is that the system implodes and people are going to have to barter, and then they're going to realize that gold and silver are the place to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they will.
That's why I keep buying things like this is a crown, which is a UK coin, silver.
Mm-hmm.
So nice noise.
Yeah.
So we got about 5 minutes, Rafi. It's gone by quite quickly. Speaking of BRICS, do you prefer a Western style of corruption or African, Chinese, Russian style corruption? I don't like any corruption, and I'm not saying that the BRICS are saints, but what the BRICS are doing is challenging the West. And am I saying this is a good thing? No, I'm just trying to observe and what effect it will have on us. It's already having an effect on us because they have a lot of commodities. And if they don't want to deal with us, it's going to be a lot more expensive. And we're feeling that already in terms of price rises.
Yeah, I like when there is a more of a balance of power, and one government power in the world can't do whatever it wants, because ultimately that ends up in evil. So I don't trust any of the BRICS. I don't trust the United States. I don't like any form of corruption. But I like to see governments try to bankrupt each other without killing people, and so I think this is a good thing.
Yeah, I think so too. When there's they talk about multipolarity, you know, that right now we've been since the fall of the Soviet Union in a unipolar world. And I think that's what Rafi means. And yeah, you know, I know that there's corruption everywhere. But yeah, that's the thing is, if we know that the BRICS are going against the West, we know that our currencies are not going to be in as much demand. Mario, what do you think of gold sovereigns as an investment instead of Britannia's? I mean, they're both coins of the realm, so there's no capital gains tax. I mean, I prefer sovereigns because they're smaller. They're easier to carry around. They're like just under a quarter of an ounce. But Britannia, sometimes you get less of a premium, but it's all like they're all gold. So as long as it's gold, it's fine. But if you're in the UK, you should focus on sovereigns and Britannias. You might want to get some Krugerrands or other stuff, as long as you, you know, you need to know that you could be liable to capital gains tax with those. Have you got a favorite gold coin, Rafi?
Me? Not really. I've been thinking about this because there's no official gold coin in Israel. Like there's no consciousness of gold or silver here, and that's going to make the market more chaotic when it breaks, when the shekel breaks down with the dollar. But at the same time, it's going to make gold and silver a lot more valuable because nobody has them here.
That's strange. I would have thought Israelis or Jews would be more into gold and silver. It's strange that it's been like. Why do you think that's happened?
Well, a lot of it has to do with State of Israel worship.
Yeah.
The problem is, like, we've been really missing the mark, and even the religious Jews, not the ultra orthodox ones, but they've kind of gone in the opposite direction and hating the state, which has its advantages. But even the religious Jews, they've made a religion out of state political Zionism. And so they see the shekel as some kind of like holy unit, and they've really lost their way, and they'll get punished for it, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. What will the arbitrage Comex LBNA to Shanghai bring in the medium to long term? Well, I think you know, gold I think traded down to 1900 on Wednesday and Thursday. And that premium stayed quite high, so that actually pushed the price higher at the end of the week. I mean, we'll have to see. Maybe Shanghai premium will drop, and then, you know, gold will go nowhere. But if tomorrow we wake up and it's at 10%, I would expect the London and Comex prices to go up a bit more. Definitely.
Yeah, I've seen the recent price action in gold and miners, and it looks pretty encouraging to me. It looks like we're on the cusp of a major rally, but you know, that's failed before, so
Yeah.
We'll see.
I mean, one thing that I think is encouraging, if you look, because I look at gold in Japanese yen and in pounds as well, because I'm in the UK, and they're doing quite well in all those currencies. And I think eventually in US dollars, it's going to do well. And it's interesting, though, because we're right near the high from 2011, which was around 1920. And I think in 2011, the national debt, I don't know, was 8 trillion. And we're approaching 33 trillion. And that's one of the reasons why I think gold is so undervalued, because you got all this debt, which is basically inflation, and gold hasn't gone anywhere in dollars.
Yeah, it's about to.
Yeah. Kevin Collins, is it true that currency is created every time we swipe to buy something on credit? if that is true, then how is it also true that the state alone is responsible for inflation? Yeah, I think you, yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to try to answer that?
Yeah, you go first. I don't know exactly how to answer it.
Yeah, when you, that's true that, when you buy something on your credit card, you're basically creating that currency to buy something. But the thing is, the state and the central bank, they're the ones who control the interest rate. So if they make it abundant, that's but the one thing I would say, when you borrow to buy something on credit, you have to pay it back, and you have to work for it. When the state does it, they don't have to work for it. They can just tax you. In the central bank, they just can create it out of thin air, and they don't have to worry about it. I'll see what you say, Rafi.
Yeah, well, ultimately, the question is when you
Borrow.
but when you create a credit transaction, who has to front the money, and how is he doing it, and what permission is he getting to do that? Right? There's no problem with credit as a concept. It's fine. But the question is, like, how much risk? Somebody's got to front that cash when you swipe your credit card. Someone's got to give the cash to whoever you're paying, right? So he's down. He's waiting for you to pay him back. So what are the margins that he's allowed to do, and who allows him to do that? It's going to be the central system. So really, it all comes down to the central system allowing its banking partners by statute to do XYZ, which creates inflation. So if every bank had its own risk and reward profile as to how much credit it'll extend to every customer, then if you default on it and then the bank goes down, and then that erases the inflation on that level, and then it doesn't become systemically spread. So the problem is it's the central powers enabling each bank to go deeper and deeper into debt, and then borrow from them when they lose it. That's the problem.
Yeah, and also they keep bailing out most of the banks. I know they've let some go bust, and they also, I think it's called moral hazard, and it's the excuse that the central banks have to be there to save the banks. And it's like, why don't we have a central bakery? Like if a baker goes bust, he has to be bailed out. But no, that's
that'd be a good shirt. You in a chef's hat saying central baker.
Yeah. So Rafi,
yeah.
Any final words here? We're going over an hour. Any final words to the viewers about what's going on and how to cope with things?
Yeah, well, what I said before, if there's a positive story, you don't have to identify with it and hang your future on it and then hope that it's going to pan out. Just like, it's okay to be positive and not see everything as, oh, this is another psyop. Sometimes there could be positive news. And if it turns out it's not positive, okay, fine, keep going. But like, don't be afraid to be positive when there's something good to be positive about. That's all.
I agree with you. And enjoy life, because I think, enjoy life and do what you enjoy doing, and like help other people, because they want to keep you scared. And when you're scared, you don't really, you don't do things. So anyway, everyone, thank you for being on the live stream, and for all your questions and your super chats. And I wish you all a great rest of the weekend. Rafi, thank you for coming on. And
thanks for having me again.
You're welcome. Yeah, and a happy new year again. 5784, right?
Yep. Happy New Year to you too.
Okay.
Okay. Have a good night.
You too, Ivan.